Hey everybody, welcome back to the homestead. Working on this axe out here, and I'm actually quite cold. Just gonna get a fire going, but I need to leave shortly to go to my daughter's wedding. She's getting married about an hour from here, and it's pretty much the same weather, and it's at a cottage on a boathouse, the top of a boathouse right on the water, and the water is still really high from all the melting that we've had recently, all the snow that melted, and then a bunch of rain on top of that. And it is about what is it, about 25 26 degrees this morning, and the high is only getting up into the 40s or low 50s, so it's going to be a cold day down by the water. So 3 o'clock this afternoon, she's getting married on that boathouse, and then luckily they got a tent. Anyway, I'm going to try to get this axe hung and cleaned up. It's a 3.5 pound Swedish, an old Swedish axe. Picked this up a while ago actually and haven't had time to get it repaired, so I'm putting a new handle on it. It's been abused over the years. Obviously it's rusty, but also it's been used to pound something, or something's been used to pound the back of this, and it's mushroomed the pole a little bit. So I think I'll grind that off, grind the mushrooming, the distortion here, grind that off, steel wool this, and then get a nice sharp edge, and I'm going to start using this to cut down the rest of those trees for the next log cabin. I'm going to file this into a fairly thin wedge on the end, on the blade edge, to use it for more of softwood felling. I think what I'll do is I'll dress up another felling axe for hardwood, which will be a little bit steeper of an angle. So instead of a wedge shape, like a 20 degree angle probably on that, instead of that I'll go a little bit like sharper to like a 30 35 on the hardwood axe. But this one, like I said, I'll be cutting mostly softwood, pine fir, spruce, and then maybe what else I've got there, softer birch or soft maple. Anyway, mainly softwood conifers. So I'll go a little thinner. It's been abused on the end, like a lot of axes that end up getting buried into the dirt or into a stump even on the that tends to get blunt, and that's exactly what's happened. So I'm going to try to straighten that out and then thin it uniformly all the way across the blade, so it bites into the wood evenly. I think what I'll do is oil the axe head, but before I do the handle, put some new linseed oil on here. Probably run some sandpaper over it first a little bit. Might end up roughing this up down here, then oiling it, and then I think I'll make a mask for it as well, at least a partial sheath, so I can wrap it to maybe there with a strap around it. And then it's ready to go into my pack. That's what I'll start carrying around the bush for felling trees. But I think the small hatchet, one of the hatchets for sure, will go in the pack as well, because that's going to be safer and better for limbing the branches off, you know, when the log's laying down and I got all the branches sticking out. This is a big axe to be swinging around like that. It's effective. Like, it's nice to take the branches off like that, like, you can get a good swing. It'll actually pass through a couple of branches at a time, or slice cleanly through right where the branch meets the trunk. But it's a lot easier and safer and easier on the body to just go along with the hatchet and do that. I finally got this axe ready to go, refurbished, sharpened up nicely. On the first time I've used that old antique sharpening wheel, the pedal powered one. That was actually, it's not the best because it's not perfectly round, I guess, or the gears are not right, so it's kind of pulsing a little bit, so I have to really move with it, which is why I ended up using the side of the wheel just to hone this to a fairly close edge on the right angle. And then I took the what was that, a 3,000 or 6,000 grit stone, and ran it over the edge again, just a flat stone, bench stone, and it's pretty close to razor sharp now. You don't want an axe too sharp because it'll actually cause some brittleness on the end, and it'll break on a strike, especially if you hit, like I said, I'm mainly using this for softwood, but on even a softwood tree, a lot of the knots can be quite hard, so if you hit a knot with too thin a blade, it'll break, or chip a little piece of steel out. So you want to kind of bevel it a little bit instead of having a straight edge like a Scandinavian edge, or a micro grind like you would have on a hunting knife. Anyway, it's sharp enough without being too vulnerable, and the handle's a good length, good stiffness, pretty good grain on it. It's nice and straight. I put some linseed oil on everything with some beeswax, and that will keep it obviously from rusting and the wood from deteriorating. Inside the sheath, I actually poured some of that oil and beeswax in there, so that every time I put the axe in, it protects it, re-oils it. Even if there was water on the axe, which there often can be, or moisture, sap, put it into the sheath, and then it just holds it, that moisture in there. It can start rusting the blade. So by continuing to put oil in there, it'll help displace that water. Anyway, that's it for this for today. Tomorrow I'll start cutting pine trees down again. Pine trees, spruce trees, fir trees, whatever else I find back there that's suitable for a log cabin. I'm going to try to get all those cut before the bugs get too bad, which is going to happen in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. Alright, so I'll work on the timber frame. Well, the sugar shack, so that wall, I still have not put it back up, that one that fell over. I'm just going to leave that for a few days. I'll move it into place, but leave it laying down. And I think what I'll do is form all the rest of the beams, or all the rest of the posts, maybe a couple of the beams, and then have those ready to go, so as soon as they get put up into place, I can tie them all together. So get 5 or 6 timbers ready to go. Spend the rest of the day doing that. It's my 2 hunting knives. So I've got bear season coming up, and turkey season's on right now. Well, actually, bear season started, on last Friday, 4 or 5 days ago. I haven't started bear hunting, but I'm ready to. Probably in the next week or 2, or I'll start. Turkeys are open. I actually saw a turkey walk by here, but it was a female, and there was no gobbler with her. I tried calling, didn't hear anything. But I'll start going after them this week probably, and then over the next couple of weeks end up usually having more success this later in the season. So after the prime peak breeding season, early, when the gobblers are breeding the hens and they're sitting on their nests. Once most of the hens are on the nest, the males start traveling looking for hens, so they're more susceptible to calling. So these ridges, especially this ridge right here and the one right there, the gobblers tend to travel across those to get into new areas. And almost every year that's what happens. I'm working around here, I hear a distant call, grab my gear, give a few calls, set up in the bush, and end up harvesting usually 2 per year. Actually, last year was the first year I did not get one. It was mainly, I'd had a pretty good opportunity here. I'll just show a few clips of that. The only reason I didn't shoot that one actually is because I was hunting with my longbow, and I wasn't set up in tight enough cover or thick enough cover to be able to draw. So he spotted me when he was about, 30, 35 yards, probably 30 yards away from me, and the hen spotted me as well, so I couldn't get a shot off. If I had my shotgun with me, then I would have been able to harvest that one. I'm not going to be purist about my bow hunting this year. I just need to get some meat in the freezer. So if I do hear a turkey, or when I dedicate myself to actually going out turkey hunting in the morning, which again I'll probably start doing next week or even later this week, then I'll probably just take the shotgun and, like I said, try to get a bird or two in the freezer or on the pot typically, or more likely right away instead of freezing it. So that's why I sharpened these knives. This is a William Collins. I forget what he calls this one. It's number 1 in that series. I think I got the first one that he made of this style of knife, and I'm not sure if he keeps selling or if he's still selling it, but I really like it. It's thin. It's a little thin, kind of flexible blade, not super thin, not like a fillet knife, but thinner than the average hunting knife. So this is really good for getting it tight on a game animal, but it's also good for fish. And then I have my Puma catamount that I've had for years. I think it's called a catamount. Yeah, Catamount 2 with the antler handle. It's a really nice knife too. I like that style of knife. You can get in nice and tight and get your hand up inside the cavity and do the work to get the animal cleaned up. Not the greatest sheath. I think I'll make a new one of these at some point out of leather. Anyway, those 2 knives are good to go. This is more of a woodworking type knife, bushcraft type knife. Again, William Collins. Really, really nice knife. It's number 1 as well. Again, I'm not sure if that means that was the very first one I made. I think it might have been. Really strong, robust knife. A glass breaker on the back. And really, really thick. So I can do some chopping even with it, especially with this part of the blade here. It's nice and sharp as well. Everything's sharp and ready to go. This sheath has I took this pocket off just because it's bulky for normal use, but if I'm on a longer hunting trip, I'll put that back on, and I've got fire starter in here, and a fire steel that stays on the knife, but in here I got tinder in a little waterproof bag, and then probably put some other things in there like wax for starting fires and things like that. So that's it for sharpening. I also sharpened a couple of axes, a saw. Now I am ready to, like I said, get back into the bush and start cutting trees down for the next couple of projects. Got a lot of trees to cut. I'm going to do some lumber milling too. I need to get some planks made and some timbers made. I need probably half a dozen more timbers for this sugar shack that I've started here, which is what I'm going to jump on now. Anyway, just wanted to share the sharpening procedures of what I'm doing in the morning. I like to try to get to my tool maintenance. I don't do it often enough, but I do a little bit of touch-up almost every time I use them, but I like to just dedicate a half day occasionally just to getting all the tools cleaned up and get the rust spots off, sharpened up. Alright, this will be the top. So, I gotta remember everything again. I gotta just stay on a project so I can remember what I'm doing all the way through the process. So this is the 4th post. So the post on the, what is that? That's the north. So the north corner post. So what I will do, since I have a beam going across the top of these, so across those top 4, this will be the corner one. And what I'm going to do is actually add a corner brace. So I need a pocket for that down here. So that can go like here, quarter to the top beam, the header. And then on this side, so coming this way, I need a lot in this. So I'll do 2 corner braces, one on each side, but one of the beams coming across is going to be lower than the other. So I'll have a corner up here, a corner down here, and then a cross brace across here, and then a pocket or a mortise or a tenon. Yeah, I'll do a tenon on this so that the top beam, the header beam, can come down on top of that. So I'll put mortise in the top beam. the first thing I'll do is lay out the tenon to match that one, and then I'll start working my way down from there. Alright, so back.